Imagine this. The year is 1626. Dawn breaks over the royal city of Ndongo, in what we now call Angola. But this is no peaceful morning. On the horizon, the smoke from Portuguese cannons billows into the sky. The city is surrounded. Queen Nzinga Mbande stands on the precipice of a terrible choice: surrender, and watch her people be enslaved, or fight a battle she cannot win. She chooses a third path. She gives the order, and her own soldiers set the city ablaze. Flames lick at the thatched roofs, devouring palaces, granaries, and homes. Why? Because Nzinga understood something profound. A physical city can be rebuilt, but a broken spirit, a lost identity, is gone forever. This was not an act of desperation. It was a declaration, a promise that she and her people would never be conquered. Over the next few minutes, we'll uncover the incredible story of this African warrior queen who refused to bow. We'll follow her journey from a princess marked by prophecy, to a brilliant diplomat who outsmarted European governors, to a guerrilla commander who built an army from scratch, and finally, a legendary ruler who secured her kingdom's freedom. This is the story of Queen Nzinga. Nzinga was born around 1583 into the royal family of Ndongo. A local legend says her umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck at birth, a sign the Mbundu people believed that she was destined for greatness and possessed immense strength. And they were right. From a young age, she excelled. She wasn't just intelligent, she was trained in military tactics and showed a natural flair for diplomacy. Her father, the king, recognized her potential early on. She grew up in a world teetering on the edge of chaos. The Portuguese had established a fort at Luanda on the coast and were pushing inland, hungry for slaves, resources, and land. The very existence of the kingdom of Ndongo was under threat. The Portuguese weren't just neighbors. They were an existential crisis, disrupting trade, fueling wars, and enslaving thousands. This was the world Nzinga was preparing to lead. Her grand entrance onto the world stage came in 1622. Her brother, now king, was losing ground against the Portuguese. He sent Nzinga, his most trusted and brilliant sibling, to Luanda to negotiate a peace treaty with the Portuguese governor, João Correia de Sousa. When she entered the governor's chamber, she saw the trap immediately. The governor sat on an opulent chair, while on the floor there was only a simple mat for her. It was a calculated insult, designed to establish his superiority. But Nzinga was not one to be humiliated. Without missing a beat, she motioned to one of her attendants. The woman knelt on all fours, becoming a human throne. Nzinga sat down, looking the governor directly in the eye, her equal. In that single moment, she declared her status and refused to be seen as anything less than royalty. During these negotiations, she also made a brilliant strategic move. She was baptized and took the Christian name Dona Ana de Sousa. This wasn't a sign of submission. It was a masterstroke of political theater. By adopting their religion, she was using their own culture as a diplomatic tool, creating a bond that the Portuguese couldn't easily ignore. She was playing their game, but by her own rules. Just 2 years later, in 1624, her brother died, and Nzinga ascended to the throne. But her crown was heavy. She faced enemies from all sides, internal rivals who challenged her right to rule as a woman, and the ever-present Portuguese, who saw her strength as a threat. The peace treaty she had negotiated was quickly violated. In 1626, the Portuguese declared war, officially labeling her an enemy. Their superior firepower overwhelmed her forces, and by 1628, the Queen of Ndongo was forced into exile. She had lost her capital, her throne, and her kingdom. But for Nzinga, this was not the end. It was a new beginning. Fleeing into the interior, she proved she was more than just a queen. She was a survivor. She allied with the fearsome Mbangala warriors, a nomadic military society, and eventually conquered the nearby kingdom of Matamba. This became her new power base. Matamba wasn't just a kingdom, it was a sanctuary. Nzinga opened her borders to runaway slaves, rival soldiers, and anyone willing to fight for freedom. She built a new, disciplined army, a mobile warrior community known as a Quilombo, bound not by birth, but by loyalty to her and the cause of resistance. For years, Nzinga waged a relentless guerrilla war against the Portuguese. She led hit-and-run raids, forged and broke alliances, and used the rugged terrain to her advantage. She was a constant thorn in the side of the colonial empire, a ghost they could never quite capture. Then, in 1641, an opportunity arose. The Dutch, rivals of the Portuguese, seized the port of Luanda. Nzinga immediately formed an alliance with them. With Dutch support, she launched a major offensive, reclaiming large parts of her ancestral homeland, Ndongo. For a brief glorious period, it seemed she might drive the Portuguese out of Central Africa for good. She was on the verge of total victory, but fortunes in war are fickle. In 1648, a massive Portuguese fleet arrived from Brazil and retook Luanda. The Dutch withdrew, and Nzinga was once again on the defensive, her grand alliance shattered. It was a devastating blow. Yet, she did not surrender. She retreated to her fortress kingdom of Matamba and held fast. This is where the story of her burning a city comes to life. While historical accounts vary on the exact details, the legend perfectly captures her spirit. Faced with an impending siege, with her capital surrounded and defeat seeming inevitable, she chose defiance. Rather than let her city's resources fall into enemy hands, she reportedly ordered everything destroyed. The message was clear. You can have the ashes, but you will never have our freedom. She was willing to sacrifice the physical symbol of her kingdom to preserve the ideal it stood for. After decades of non-stop warfare, an exhausted but undefeated Nzinga finally negotiated a peace treaty with the Portuguese in 1656. This wasn't a surrender. It was a treaty between sovereigns. The Portuguese finally recognized her as the rightful ruler of Matamba and eventually Ndongo. In exchange for peace and preserving her kingdom's autonomy, she made concessions, including participating in the slave trade, a tragic compromise many African rulers of the era were forced into to survive. Queen Nzinga died peacefully in 1663, at around 80 years old, in the land she had fought her entire life to protect. She left behind a powerful, stable kingdom that would resist European control for another 2 centuries. So what is the legacy of Queen Nzinga? She was a master of adaptation. She used diplomacy when it served her, warfare when it was necessary. She blended Mbundu tradition with European tactics and faith with political strategy. The image of her making a human chair, of her leading armies into her 70s, and of her choosing fire over chains defines a leader who refused to be a footnote in someone else's history. The ultimate twist? By giving up her city in a blaze, she showed that true power isn't about holding on to territory. It's about holding on to your dignity, your identity, and the unquenchable flame of freedom. Today, Nzinga is revered as the Mother of Angola and is an icon of resistance across the African diaspora. Her story teaches us a powerful lesson. When the terms of surrender demand you give up who you are, sometimes the only winning move is to burn the city and start again from the ashes. Thanks for watching. If you were inspired by the incredible story of Queen Nzinga, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of legendary figures who changed the world. See you next time.